Welcome to the MILPA show. Once again, Bernie Gomez here as your host today. I just want to say gracias everybody tuning in, watching this. Today we have a great conversation. We have Father's Day coming up, right? And we wanted to highlight the papas here at the Milpa Collective. There's an abundance of stories here, and we would want to give the comunidad a little bit of those stories, and highlighting those fathers también. I want to take this time too, just to honor those our ancestors, right? Todos los papás that came before us, paved the way, sacrificed, and it provided us with the lessons, the teachings, right? With the amor, with the regaños, with all those things, right? All those things that basically, has built us to who we are today. Pero con eso, we have a strong men, strong fathers here today, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, right? Pero con eso, we're gonna introduce ourselves with the full name, where we were born and raised, and if we were an animal, what animal would that be and why? So con eso, I'll go ahead and just open it up.
Buenos tardes, gentlemen. My name is James Martinez. I was born in San Jose, California, and I was raised in the Salinas Valley. If I could be any animal, I would say I would like to be an eagle. And I say that because I feel they have the foresight and the foreseeability to be a visionary and to set sights and set goals and accomplish them and to fly high and soar amongst the heavens. So if there's any animal that I would like to be, it would be an eagle.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christian. I was born in the East Bay area, and if I could be an animal, I probably would be the monkey because that is my Chinese zodiac. So I would be the monkey, clever, witty, likes to play as a team, and yeah, I would just say I would be the monkey. I pass the palabra.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes, or whatever time, whenever people are tuning into this. My name is John Pineda. I was born in Salinas, raised in Greenfield, and if I could be any animal, and I'm thinking aquatic animals are okay with this too, I'd be a salmon, right? Because our auntie always tells us, look towards the salmon when something's going on in your life, when you're feeling stuck, because they're just going with the flow, making room for everybody else to handle their business and do their thing. So with that said, palabra, gracias.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Cesar, and born in Glendale but raised in the Salinas Valley. I'm really happy to be here. And the animal that I would be probably a bear. I think through my whole life I've been known to be part of the bear clan. And so really happy to be here.
Buenas tardes. Good evening. Shumanam, Kwaitonali. My name is Juan Gomez. I'm a executive director, co-founder at MILPA. Identify as Chicano. I'm part of the Tapilan Cahutecan Nation of the Ataque Pagame family. Birds that live by the river. I have a son named Rayo Tamoxin Paliska, Honorable Lightning Spirit Ray. So a little bit of Barrio, a little bit of Nahua, a little bit of Pajelate. And, across the water, his other roots from his mom, through the grandpa. And if I could be an animal, I'd be part of the pack, a lobo, wolf pack, because they're always in the pack, they're in formation, and, to each his own, but they're always thinking about equity, and so everyone has a role, and that's how I like to roll.
That's right. Buenas tardes, whatever time this is right for you all. Full name Elias Gonzalez. Please do call me Eli. Born and raised and living and breathing Watsonville, right? Not planning on going anywhere anytime soon either. And if I could be any animal, I think right now I'm thinking about that hawk, because that red-tailed hawk. And I keep on seeing how, that determination and that focus when it's ready to do its thing, hunt, and you see all these crows and hummingbirds coming around it, and it's not phased. So I need to have that focus and that determination to be able to accomplish, whatever task is set before me. So, learning from the birds. So I think today may be a red-tailed hawk, tomorrow it may be a duck, but today I'm feeling the red-tailed hawk. And I'll pass it back to you, Brother Bernie.
Yeah, gracias. I think for me, again, Bernie Gomez, born and raised in Watsonville, un animal, right? I think for me it'd be like a mountain lion, right? Cougar, puma, they're always, on their own, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's like, but salen, y cuando salen though, when you spot them, it's like, wow, right? Like, hey, you see that? Or like, when you get capture them, it's like, yeah, I think here in Santa Cruz, there's been a few times where the lion came down to the city, right? And he was captured and like tranquilized the volada, because it's like, you don't really see them that much, but yeah, I've always been intrigued by their lifestyle, really, on their own, but they handle business también. But yeah, gracias everybody for sharing. Today's, understanding, that Father's Day is coming up. Again, just want to highlight y'all, as fathers, as men, as brothers, as community members, and just wanted to give the time, también for the community to get to know us también, we're not just community activists or organizers, we're a lot more than that, and I think here, this conversation, hopefully we can bring some more light to that. Pero con eso, we're going to jump right into it, I think this is a very rich conversation, and I'm looking forward to it también, so, what were some of the valores, those values, right, that we've seen in our home growing up? Understanding, sometimes, some of us, grew up with our fathers, some of us didn't, right? But we always had a father figure or a role model, right? So in that home.
I know for me growing up as an adolescent, I didn't have my father in the picture. So my mom had to fulfill multiple roles and really giving me the values and the principles that I needed to grow up as a respectable young man. And growing up in the community that I grew up in, I also found other forms of father figures that had influential factors in my life that really contributed to my development and where I am today, which I'm also often very reflective of and grateful for everyone that came into my life and providing me some valuable teachings and values and principles throughout all my life. And having to learn through those experiences and having my mom as a single mother, having to provide for the family and provide that warmth, that calor de familia was very instrumental for me in my development. And even though I had many experiences that really helped me become the man I am today, I really reflect on those father figures that I had. And though many people might not see these individuals as father figures, but they were my father figures, and they taught me etiquette such as honoring what you say you're going to honor, being present in the moment and doing all that you can for your community and all for your people, and really giving your heart to each other. And also reflecting on some of the fatherhood impacts that also have impacted me today as a father. For example, not having a father in my life really gave me an example of what type of father I need to be for my boys, and some of those important teachings that were needed as a kid that I didn't have, and having a void that needed to be filled and having it filled through other avenues really helped me develop to who I am today and being able to pass that etiquette on to my son. For example, just spending those quality time with him and being interested in some of the conversations that he's interested in and taking it down to his level and showing him that I'm here with him, and him opening up and venting and expressing himself about some of the things he sees in his school, and having those important conversations have, I believe, helped me recapture some of those father-son moments that I lacked as an adolescent. So having to kind of reestablish some of those necessary steps in our development, right? Even though I didn't have a dad, I'm able to be a dad now and kind of recapture some of those elements that I missed, and able to heal, able to grow and develop, and to become the man that I was intended to become.
Yeah, thank you for that, James. For me, nothing better than the example that I had from my abuelito Jose, and my father, to have that example of what family is, how family unites and gets together and helps each other through tough times. Holidays always getting together, whether it be Easter, whether it be birthdays, whether it be over, the holiday season. But having my grandfather there really instilled in me the value of working, of getting your hands dirty, of putting your hands in the soil, of reaping what you sow. And, I remember the stories my dad would tell me of his first job, at 14, coming from Mexico and working in the fields and, getting up early and, having to make lunch for all the younger siblings, brothers and sisters, and like everyone going to work, and even, my tias and my abuelitas, out in the asadón, and, getting those long hours in and just making it a family affair. And so for me, my first job was at 14 as well. And it was in the fields as well, and the tomates, and the jitomates pescando. And, it just taught me that etiquette. I seen my grandfather do it. I seen my father do it. And I seen, most of my family, get their hands dirty. And so that's the one value instilled in me. I like to work. I like to get dirty. I like to put my hands in the dirt. I have that relationship with the dirt, and just respect all living things because of that. The relationship with the plants that my abuelitas took care of, the relationship with the trees that my abuelito helped plant, and the watering, the watering of the garden, to ensure that it continues to grow, and now I teach my son those things. And so, yeah, I'm just very thankful for those values that were instilled in me as a little boy through that example. Behold.
Yeah, very interesting question. And I think I learned a lot from my father and both my mother. And, the biggest thing that I learned is about palabra, and it's about hard work. My dad crossed over the Arizona desert. My mom came in a trunk of a car. Even though I was born in Glendale, early on, before I was 5, my parents moved up to the Salinas Valley, so I had no support system. My parents were my support system. My brother was my support system, and my dad always taught me, it's palabra. If you're gonna say you're gonna do something, no matter what age you do, and you're gonna work hard. There's no excuse. No, I'm not feeling well. I saw my dad, wake up every morning at 4:00 in the morning to get ready to go to work, and I come back, when it was dark, and he would work, 6 days a week when it was the ag season, and and there was no time to get sick. There was no time for excuses. It was about the hard work, because he had to bring, the money home. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was in 5th or 6th grade, and so just the pressure to really support the family with no support system out there. My mom didn't get her green card until the late 80s. And so for the longest time growing up, being, having an undocumented mother, even though I was born in the United States, you really brought value. And I think I carry those forward to the work that I do. And always in the work that I do, I always see through my parents' eyes and trying to change the world. And so, palabra is number 1, and number 2 is hard work, and not in any specific order, but it's about, if you're going to do it, mijo, put all your ganas into it. And if you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it. And so if I'm going to change, the justice system, I'm going to do it all to change the justice system. Same thing goes for the other work that we all do. So it's about palabra, and not just for yourself, but for your community and your elders before you. Gracias.
So, when thinking about fatherhood and like the valores that I saw growing up, similar to James, it's like a compilation of different peoples in my life that had a role in maybe giving me consejos, regañas, maybe even a whooping here and there, you know what I'm saying? Because the old school, man, sometimes they put their hands on you to get their point across, right? But I think about my grandfather, Alfonso Pineda. I think about my father, Tommy Mendoza, man who isn't my biological father, but raised me as his own, a man that I grew to know and respect and love as my father. I think about my mother, Marina Mendoza. I think about my grandmother as well. And a bunch of other people, right? There's too much to name, and I don't want to make anybody else jealous. So I'm just going to stick with those core people right there. But some of the things that they taught me, words come to mind like cariño, patience, vergüenza, hard work ethic. My grandfather used to always tell me, el huevón trabaja en doble. Don't be lazy. Do what you got to do. See it through to the end. And they also taught me like discipline, dedication. A lot of hard workers in my family were out there cutting lettuce their whole life. Traveled all around the United States, working in the fields. Following the cosecha and things like that. So really, really honorable people. Really prideful, took pride in their appearance as well too. That was another thing. Like, man, your clothes had to be on point. You represent the family when you walk outside. So the way you speak, the way you walk, the way you engage with others, you're carrying your last name basically. You're carrying the family, so that honor and those roots as well too. That's a lot of what I took with me, and ultimately having patience. Seeing maybe the lack of patience for myself at times, and knowing that maybe there was different things that could have been done. So, and maybe even different people that could be engaged in your upbringing. So being humble as well too, to say that, hey, there might be tíos, tías, primos, or primas that can help out too, that can maybe get at one of my children when I can't. So yeah, a whole lot of teachings. I'm not going to continue to take up the space on this recording, but with that, palabra.
Yeah, no, I think like most folks here, dad left, at a young age. And I think it was a variety of folks that, took that role. So definitely dad's name, Emilio Gonzalez, left at a young age. But I think at a very young age, like Cesar, he instilled that teaching of palabra. So I remember hearing that word when it came back, and it was almost like dad was there. So it was almost, I knew it meant something because it went way back. So yeah, so I think, that first teaching of palabra came from dad, and just to be able to honor that through the work is what I try to do, right? Not just through the work, but through who I am as a person. The second person obviously is my stepdad, Ruben Villanueva. He gave me the example. I tell people the man I am today is because of him. He didn't tell me how to become a man. He didn't sit there and teach me the lessons. He sat there and did it. He treated my mom with respect. He carried himself with, through hard work, always working, always providing, always, even feeling the love as a stepchild. And there's been, other men, neighborhood dads, even I gotta give credit, where credit is due. Remember my ex's dad, Fred Perez, taught me a whole lot. I mean, I got together with her when we were 20. I didn't know anything. I didn't know nothing about tools. So he gave me my first tool set. So, you give credit where credit is due. So a lot of men that came in my life, a lot of different teachings that have came, and I borrow the good and I try to leave the bad kind of over there, right? But it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child at times, and it definitely took a village. My mom took some of those roles, right? And my mom, of course, came at it with love. So I think that's what I try to do. I try to bring that love. I try to bring that compassion. And in many ways, I'm trying to do what I didn't get. I didn't get certain things, and I think I want to try to give some of that out. And I think, I forgot who said it, but even like being with my son, heck yeah, I'm living those father-son moments. Heck yeah, I'm going back and sitting and enjoying every moment of it, because he's 16 now, 16 up here, right? But yeah, and like I said, a lot of different teachings, a lot of different valores, and at the end of the day, like I said, even learning from the mistakes that at that moment hurt, At that moment, I didn't want to see it. At that moment, I didn't want to learn the lesson, right? But I think now that I'm older, I'm able to realize, hey, that was a lesson that I had to go through maybe. And it hurt and it didn't feel good in that moment. And a lot of things still don't feel good in the moment, right? So I think I've learned now to actually, like, what am I supposed to learn out of this instead of why is this happening? What is the teaching in this? How am I supposed to learn and how can I move forward from all this? Because the reality is that we'll keep doing this, and I tell my kids every day, I'm a work in progress. We'll be to the dying day, right? And as long as I keep trying, that's all I can give you guys, right? I tried. If Fito tried doing the best he could, and at the end of the day, if I get an A effort, that's what we'll do. But with that, I'll pass it on to the next person. Oh.
I'll riff on it a little bit. My connection with my dad wasn't necessarily it wasn't perfect, right? It was a strange, disconnected, but it was what it was, right? But the valores that I got, like, it really takes like a barrio, to raise a family, because I was raised around all my uncles and all my cousins and all the guys in the neighborhood and all the señores, and my grandpa. So I got to see all that because that's what I was going to take a little bit from all of them, and kind of put it together. But I was going to need to pull on all those different strengths, because having to go through incarceration, overcoming the impacts of racism, white supremacy, white power, like I would need all that cariño, you know what I mean? And shape-shifting to be presente, right? Growing up in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't like cool to be brown, like I said, oftentimes we're not even around, what I'm saying? We get invisibilized, right? We're not even in data, we all that. So I think that I learned about just the richness of our cultural inheritance at a young age, right? Like I had pride in that bakery, El Nopal, right? Like that meant something to me, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I'll say that much, that was what I saw, and then also my mother, because I learned a lot about what it means to be a man from her discipline, but her consejos, right? And I never knew about it until later. So sometimes be like, well, I can't teach you to be a man. She's not teaching me to be anything. She's putting stories for me and cuentos for me to catch on in until I can find my way. So I can really appreciate that, And now I have one of the best relationships with my dad. Like I go there and I be having all these like big old freaking scenarios, and he just busts out those one-liners, and I'm like, oh, teachings. Palabra,
Yeah, growing up, I now when reflecting on it, I've seen a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice. The jefe, work, out at 5 a.m. to go and work, right? Come back and then the mom is gone because they've both got to work. So it's like, they're interchanging the responsibilities, and then sometimes we'll be to see them, on the weekend. But that's one thing that I seen is that a lot of work, right? And then there was always like, the food on the table, right? And there was the just that the semblance of like trying to navigate life. It's like, and if I were to try to like talk about it like in regards to like me growing up and actually seeing it, right, I didn't understand it, but now it's like I really see, like, okay, that's what's going on. They were struggling, and that's what I'm hearing too. People were struggling. We've always been struggling. It's like they migrated over here, tried to plant some seeds here, and they had to navigate, the como dijeron, that invisibility, right? They have to navigate all that ridicule, all those like, all those looks from the people, because está, pues vienen de rancho allá, and but una cosa así, it's like that I was here. It was like, hey, be a leader, not a follower. And for a long time, también growing, it's like I really catch what it was. I thought it was just like be a leader. Don't follow anyone else's thing. It's like, always be the one in front y todo eso. But no, it's like, um, lead by example, right? It's like, hey, si tú quieres que otros sean, like have that, that if you want to show other people maybe certain things, right? Well, do it by example. Don't tell them, right? because at the end it's like it doesn't really work for me. That's what's like it doesn't. You know, I'd rather really walk that talk. You know, um, and then as it's like you know, as it's expanded, you know, the time's gone on, and like all the tears and the freaking arguments and like the you know and the you know get outs and like you know and come back and all that stuff. You know, is like the one thing that I hear now is like, hey, just be happy. You know, just be happy. Everything that you do is like, you know, that's life. Just be happy. You know, to me, that's really like one of those biggest valores. You know, like, hey, be happy. You know, and hey, por ejemplo, you know, ain't nobody else gonna do it, but you know, for you. So you gotta do it for yourself. You know, and that's the character. You know, and so yeah, gracias. You know, everybody for sharing that. You know, so it could be triggering también. It's having to like you know go uh, through that alley right there of memories, right? But you know, moving forward, you know, is how has fatherhood changed you? You know, we all have kids here, right? I'm gonna say, you know, real quick, you tengo dos morrillas and Kayla. Congratulations for graduating this year. You know, proud of you. You know, I'm sure you know big things. You know, you got are in the future for you and también Jasmine, right? Pero con eso, you know, how has fatherhood changed you?
Along with fatherhood has come a lot of valuable teachings that has really helped me in my growth and my development as a father, and as also someone who really didn't have that in their lives, right? So it's really been a learning process in itself. There is no blueprint to being a father, but I feel that it has changed me for the better in many different instances. And in that instance is not thinking for myself anymore. There have been many times in my life where I often had to really focus on myself. And I say that because, you know, going to the streets at an early age in my life, there was one focal point, and that was surviving in the streets. So I got really accustomed to me being the focal point. But as soon as my offspring came, my whole focus and thought process had changed in such a way where it really helped me to learn to be compassionate, learn to one another, learn to just not think about myself, but think about others and to think about those that are going to come after me. And have really been the inspirational force behind my transformation in life is having to look behind me and know that I got boys that are watching me that I have to provide for and really be able to provide some of those substances that I didn't have growing up. And for me, that has been something that has really redirected my life and gave me purpose. And that purpose and direction that was needed was to have a family and not growing up and not having it. Now I'm able to sustain it with my family that I have now, and just to be able to rekindle. And I say rekindle because I feel like we all have our experiences as our adolescents, and we really need to iron out through those experiences as we grow older. And it's like closing chapters in our lives that we all need to close chapters. It's like a book. And for me, I feel like being a father has helped me to close many chapters of my adolescence by helping me feel, but not only feel, but to experience that warmth of family. And for me, that's something that is priceless. And not only priceless, it's something that has conditioned me to be the man I am today, compassionate, loving, understanding. And I've also learned a lot about myself as well through fatherhood. Some of the mistakes that I made that I wouldn't have made if I knew what I knew now. So just having that process of growing and learning has been, I would say, the main focal point in fatherhood for me has been growth and development.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for sharing that way. For me, you know, fatherhood first changed my life when I noticed my father and how he supported me through my entire incarceration. You know, I wasn't the best of kids. You know what I mean? I was one of the, you know, the middle child. You know, the black sheep. You know, however you want to coin it. Um, you know, adolescence was you know, a lot of tough lessons, um, and those lessons led to my incarceration. And my dad, you know, during the time, he never wavered. Um, the court process, through the initial process, through the entire, length of incarceration over years. He just never wavered, He came to visit, dropped money on the books, accepted letters, even learned how to write in order to stay in communication with me. My father came early, had a 6th grade education, so it wasn't necessarily his thing, but it really made me reflect and realize, like, man, look at, all the harm that I've caused. It's been to those that I love the most and who love me the most, my family. And yet, through this troubling time, my family is not abandoning me. They're not using that situation, that teaching, that experience as a scapegoat. And so as a young man, it really instilled in me the love for myself, the appreciation for my family, the respect for all that they do and all that they provide. And so that has really impacted the way that I parent now. As a father of a 18-year-old, there's a lot of times where it's challenging. It's tough, you don't want to be too hard on them because you understand that times are different nowadays. It's not like us growing up with the chancla being thrown every corner you hit, or the cinto coming out, or go grab the telephone cord or whatever it may have been. I see some wild stuff, but it really has given me the compassion to approach the situation and understand that it's not about right or wrong, but that there's a teaching in it, and the teaching is for this young man to learn and to become better and to equip himself so that one day he may want to raise a family and approach it a different way. And so, those valores that we talked about being passed down from grandfather to father, to the men, in our community, older brothers, uncles, all of that has really changed the way that I approach fatherhood, giving me a little bit more patience, and more compassion. Really, that's the ultimate thing there, the compassion. To know what the young men are going through, to know how COVID impacts young people, to know about the mental challenges that can occur from having a father that was incarcerated and is carrying some of those things, shedding some of those things, dropping some of those things on the journey. And so, yeah, it's changed my life forever. It's changed the way I approach young people in the work that we do, going in there and understanding what's right with them and not what's wrong with them. And I'll just say that much. Palabra.
Yeah, palabra. Thank you, Christian. I adopted my kids 5 years ago. And so, I had from zero kids to 3 kids overnight. Was a shocker. I adopted, these 3 beautiful kids. They all came from the same mother, but because of her life, they had to separate them. And so, my wife, having worked in childcare before, knew that so often kids get split up. So, it's funny, when I was dating my wife, we always joked because she came from a family of 3 and I came from a family of 2, me and my brother. And we always joked, and I was like, hey, let's have 3 kids. And I was like, no, let's have 2, because just joking. And as we were dating and now married, we kind of said, okay, let's have 2 kids and then let's decide if we have 3. And, so we started fostering kids. And the first kids that we had, there was 2 kids, 2 beautiful boys around the same age. And it didn't work out. Thank God the mother got her life together and the kids went back to the mom, which was the right thing to do. And then we adopted 3 kids. So I guess we had 2 kids and then we figured it out and we ended up with 3. And it's going to sound really corny, but my kids complete me. As we do the work that we do, part of it is it's for the sport of the politics and changing the world and everything that we do. I think we do really hard work. We do transformational work. But you always have to ask yourself, why do you do it? And and I always see changing the world because I see it through my parents' eyes, like I said earlier. But now I have my kids, and so as Milpa, we talk about the 7 generations. I think of the generation before me and the challenges that they had to face. But now we're having kids. You have to think of the generations ahead of you, and what are we going to do for them? And so, they complete me. In the work that we do. I don't want my kids to go through the life they had to go through. Where they had a mother, they had an absentee father, and because of the mom's life, she had to give them up. And my wife was the one that was like, we'll be fine. We can adapt to 3 kids. And so now my youngest is 7 3/4. He's turning 8 in July 5th, and then and then my daughter is 12 and my son is 13. And having them for the last 5 years and seeing them, I see it through their eyes, and the values that we live up to in Milpa is the way I carry myself. And I'm fighting for them just like I'm fighting for my parents, just like I'm fighting for my community. It's transformational. Palabra.
Yeah, so well, thank everybody for sharing. It's a huge question, right? Because there's so much that has changed as a result of having children. I have 6 kids, and shout out to my oldest daughter, Jennifer. She just graduated as well too. She'll be going to CSUMB. Hella pumped up about that. Really, really proud of her. She has a 4.0 GPA. I never saw straight A report cards. Unless I stole somebody's backpack and it was in there, or I saw my daughter, so when it got here, right? So very, very proud, right? And along with that, I have my daughter Chevelle, my son Sencali, John Jr., Alfonso, and also my little Hailey. Her name's Hailey Selassie, right? I make the joke, it's her Imperial Majesty, right? Because she walks around like a straight queen, And I learned a lot of things. One of the main things that sticks out to me is I used to say soft, right? Like they softened me up. They made me soft, but I think they really made me strong, right? Strong enough to be able to stand for them and be what they need me to be in their lives, right? And even like changing the thoughts of what I thought being a man was. I thought I had to do certain things in order to establish and assert myself as a man. I'm now realizing that a lot of those things were actually detrimental to me being a father. So I'm having to go through the process of extracting some of those things from my life, or just setting them to the side and looking at them like, hey, that's not healthy for us right here. It's about this. And like James said, being selfless, having the thought of it's beyond me. There's something more right here. I was pretty selfish growing up. I was actually a jerk for a lot of hurt a lot of people, did a lot of bad things to a lot of people. And now I'm realizing that like those aren't things that I want for my children to remember me as. Those aren't things that I want anybody in any life to have to experience, right? And even learning that fear of a parent, right? Of being afraid for what's going to happen with your kid, and like flipping your lid here and there, and reminding yourself of like, man, that's what my parents probably went through, right? And now identifying that and saying like, whoa, okay, that's what they were feeling, that's what they were experiencing. How do I break that cycle, right? And begin to build that circle in which our family is healthy. We have dialogue. We actually lean into conflict in a healthy way and try to have like shit. People talk about restorative justice and all of that stuff. Like, you should see my dinner table sometimes. You see when it gets a little crazy inside of the house. Like, we have to sit down and straight up have like RJ circles, or like, and it's just palabra, having conversation with the young ones is really important, because as an adult, you could have that thought of like, I'm the parent, what I say goes, you listen. Now you could turn into a dictator in your own home, right? And by all means, some people feel that they're entitled to that. I mean, shit, you pay the bills and all that stuff, right? You feed them, but that doesn't really work the way we want it to. So really just seeing like the things in my life that may have created a wedge between me and my family, taking that out of there and trying to implement something else, something that'll be like glue and bring us together, right? You know, and even like playing differently, right? Laughing and tickling and like, you know, giving kisses and freaking hugs. And, you know, when you see someone sad, like, don't, hey, what's wrong with you? Like, hey, are you okay, baby? Come here. Maybe not even are you okay, just give them a hug, right? Because that might be all they need. So just remembering all of those like base teachings that we talk about, right? The love, the care, the dignity, the respect, and providing a positive example of what that can look like inside of your home. Dad doesn't just do certain things. Dad does all the things, right? I may be cooking. I may be washing dishes. I may be doing laundry. You know, and we're trading off like that because that's how the household and the village functions, right? Everybody has a role, but when there's a role that's vacant and you may be able to help out, shit, hop in there and help out. It's about teamwork. They say teamwork makes the dream work. My family's my dream. They also say home's where the heart is. I've identified my heart and my children. They're my constant like calibration for my moral compass. When I find myself lost, I think about my kids and I know exactly where I need to go. So with that said, palabra.
You know, for me, like, well, it was like a shock, you know what I mean? You get the car, like, oh, okay, you know. But I got blessed by the creator. This that, you know, and you know, it was fatherhood to me has been like a ceremonial, it's been like ceremony. It means something to be a father, to get initiated into like fatherhood, right? Having older men, uncles, elders, grandpas really freaking be willing to take you in. And so I got to experience that type of compassion and love. You know, one of the unks put me up in the lodge. He did everything. He just said, sit there. You're going to see all this. That's what you're going to have to do. And no one's ever going to know. No one's going to give you no credit. That's what it means to be a dad. You got to do everything. You got to take all the shit. And I was tripping out like, damn. And so, you know, I've also had to myth bust, right? Like this idea of the Brady Bunch dad or this deadbeat dad, you know, like, I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, well, you know, I also have to respect the game. I'm glad, you know, I have a grandpa in my life, you know, Al Paliska, that's helping me raise him, you know. Dad needs to freaking figure it out still. Dad doesn't have it all collected, you know, like, you know, and you know, it's not like the most prestigious thing to say. I wish I could come here like I'm a freaking model dad and shit. Like, nah, man. But you know what? But I also realized the importance of like, you have to have men. But that little boy is getting that grandpa medicine. You know, he's gonna have to navigate it, but at some point he'll come back. We do rites of passage. We know that around 10, 13 years old, they need the uncles, the broncos, you know what I mean? And so, you know, he's prayed for. Every time he comes here, all he sees is our brown Chicano indigenous men, you know what I'm saying, native men drumming, you know what I'm saying, praying to the creator, taking him to go bird watching. And so my boy's gonna see that all of us, that's what we do. We do community service. You know, we were active in the community, like we're out here, you know what I mean? And so, you know, it's been really humbling to be like, man, it's really expensive too. Right? It's really expensive too. You know what I'm saying? And then you also notice, I'll be honest, like the whole like dad bod and like you really don't care about your looks that much no more. You know what I mean? Like, look, man, you know, and like so you go through little phases and stuff, you know what I mean? And you also learn to like, man, you have for myself a different outlook for mom. Like, man, I don't know how you do it more. I wouldn't even like ones of kinds. Imagine 2, 3, 4, 5. So much love and respect because they never complain either, you know. So that's all I'll say. You know, I'm still learning about it myself. You know, it's like I'm a young father. You
know. Gracias for sharing, everyone. Yeah, you know, I think we can all sit there and say it's changed our life, right? I think for me, it began, I think, a transformation, right? I think I was in a place in my life where, you know, it wasn't a healthy place. I was in a dark place. I had been called every name in the book, right? At family and schools, everywhere. And I think that when my daughter was born, I remember like literally seeing her, like going in, like I seen her, you know, she's born. And then I remember going and seeing her through that wall, and she's in that little incubator, and I'm like looking at her, and I'm like, and I'm looking around. I know I shared the story with folks, and I'm looking around, I'm like, that's me. That's all me. And she's perfect. And I have something to do with that. So something hit, right? Where it's like, maybe I can do things differently. Maybe I need to start doing things differently, right? For her. So I think, you know, there's a reason. I think someone told me there's a reason why Creator gives you a girl first. And I think it kind of hit me earlier where it's like, hold up, my fire was way out of control. And Creator knew that sending me a girl, probably sending me a boy at that moment wouldn't have been the best thing for me. I probably would have continued some of those unhealthy traits, right? But for Creator to send me a little girl, it was like, what? Hold up. Do I want her? And it was a question, do I want someone like me to come around her? Mm-mm. With all due respect to myself, I wasn't in a healthy place. And did I want someone to approach my daughter like that? So I tell people, you know, she gave me a heart to be able to feel that. I think and her name's Eliana. My son Elias, I think, you know, I think what I've learned from my son is we have a great relationship. I think that, you know, he took that riggedness away from me. Like follow that, do this, do that, right? Like that was my dad. And I thought that that's what a dad had to be. But me and him, like I said, sometimes people look at me like you let him do that? You let him talk to you like that? Or it's like, what? We have a great relationship. He's messing around. And, you know, and sometimes we have to follow, like Juan said, the status, like we have to follow what society does. Where for me, it's like, nah, it's a relationship we have. He's a little young man now, you know, he's a young man. So the relationship we have, I think it's a relationship. And that's what I want to be able to have, a relationship with my son when we're able to talk about school. Hey, how do you feel about school? And, you know, how do you feel that I'm not pressuring you in school? Because some folks are very on their kids on school. I actually just want them to be able to survive as a young man through this whole mental health pandemic and make sure that his social, emotional well-being is in place. We'll figure about school down the road, you know, and don't take me wrong. We have some expectations, but it's almost like not to the point where like, because he's told me, look, I see the stress on some of these kids. And he told me, I really appreciate that you're not like that with me because I see what they do because of the stresses that their parents put on them. Bro, I was like, so it's learning, you know, and I'm learning to listen to him and I'm learning to talk to him. But I think overall, what did my kids teach me? You know, I think it taught me about unconditional love. That goes back to my great grandma, Otilia Jaracuaro. She gave it to me. So I think I was able to be like, this is what we do for our children, right? And of course, I think with both of them being born, they gave me purpose. They gave me purpose. They are the reason I do everything. They are the reason I try to carry myself as a humble individual, as, you know, an hombre noble, as someone that not only represents himself, represents his family, represents his community, the milpa, and, you know, and just try to carry myself in that way and in a humble way. I will make mistakes. I will make a lot of mistakes along the way, but please, I always tell them, let me know. I've even told my daughter, tell me to shut up if I need to and talk to me. And that's what we try to do, right? Talk, communicate, because mama always said, platicando se entiende la gente. So I try to take that back and try to listen. We were also told, you know, we have 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as hard as we listen, as much as we talk, right? So trying to instill some of those teachings, trying to learn along the way and continue learning. But again, it changed. I can change my life, right? I'll pass it back to you, Brother Bernie.
Yeah, yeah. Gracias everyone for sharing. You know, for me, it's, man, I was 15 years old when I got that call. Tripping, you know. I was like, man, I still remember the day too. We were living on Penn Block in Pennsylvania, right there in Watsonville, the little apartamentitos, right? My room was upstairs, parents' room was down. You know, it's like, and I got the call. You know, first, you know, before I continue, it's like, man, I just want to say gracias to their mother, right? She, you know, she held it down this whole time. She, you know, did a wonderful job, and I highly appreciate her. I love her, you know, and just want to, you know, put her on the forefront on that one, you know, because she held it down. Um, pero sabes que, like, you know, reflecting, man, I don't know what was going on. You know, it was like at the time it was kind of cool. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a kid, right? You know, all that, you know, and but realizing like it really affected like my school, right? Affected my relationship with my folks. You know, it even caused rifts también, you know, it's like between me and her, you know, because we were so young. We didn't know what the hell, right? Like what was going on. So, but we got through it, you know, we got through it, figured it out, you know, had, you know, I got the spoken to, and then, you know, but being la familia, you know, it's like our parents, like they're compassionate and loving. They might blow up and this and that, or even just the tias or tios or something, you know, but then again, they understand también, like, okay, well, there's a new life coming into, so let's band together and let's figure it out. You know, so that's what happened. You know, you know, yeah. I mean, 15, born. She was born when I was like 16, and you know, and after that, I mean, it's a long story, right? I was just because of inexperience, right? I did a lot of mistakes, made a lot of mistakes, been in and out of their lives, you know, for years. You know, understanding like just the impacts of being a kid, you know, having a child at that time, uh, you know. But now I can say that now, it's really it's made me really think about, like, I can't you know, I can't go back to what I was doing no more. You know, it's not just about me. No, it's not just about, you know, like my selfishness. You know, it's like there's actually, you know, these young mujeres that are are growing up, you know, and eventually they're gonna, you know, they're gonna have their relationships. They're gonna find their, you know, they'll go through the motions of finding their identity. So I need to be able to support them as best as possible and actually be there, you know, and try to make up, you know, try to, you know, mend that and bridge that braid, you know, otra vez, you know, and be there to darle los consejos, you know, that now at this mature age, right, that I see, it's like, oh, okay, this is what I should have, this is what I should have, you know, heard when I was growing up. You know, this is what, you know, I think this might be a better way to go, you know. And just having that open relationship and communication with them, it's really changing everything that I do. You know, I'm really trying to like do something different, do the right thing, create a better version of myself, right? And and through years and years, you know, I never got it, but when I came to Milpa, I mean, something special here, you know, because hey, it changed my life in that way. And it's like, and I recognize that I'm barely coming into that parenthood, right, to that fatherhood, and you know, it's a blessing for me, you know, and I hope that you know, that I'm able to build con ellas, you know, and they open up and we can heal, you know, heal as a family, you know. It's like with their mother también, you know, that at one point we can all, you know, just have that conversation and yeah, and just look towards the future, you know. Yeah, this is a big one. You know, I trip out every time I think about it. But gracias. So, you know, just you know, thinking about like our valores, right? You know how this has changed our life. You know, it's like our experiences. You know what we've seen. You know the stories that we hear. You know the stories that we share. But you know, there's always that things like, you know, sometimes we end up doing the things that our parents did to us. You know, with to our kids. You know, like, so there's like this little cycle, right? Sometimes kind of crazy, sometimes kind of cool, sometimes like, oh shit, I'm my parent, you know, I'm my mom or I'm my dad, you know. But so what characteristics have you recognized, no, from your upbringing, right, that that you mimic into your own parenting?
I want to say for me, Bernie, the characteristics that I recognize from my upbringing that I'm incorporating them into my parenting today has just been being present, being in the moment, and being that constant motivational factor behind the development, of the family. Because for me, family was something that wasn't something that was very much honored in the family, because I felt like in a sense I kind of came from that broken home. And I say broken home because, as the brothers had alluded to, it takes a village. And when I think of a village, I think of a community, but I also think about that duality that comes with having a mother and having a father present in the home and having that sense of stability. So for me, that's one thing I'm trying to establish, is that sense of stability that I didn't have as an adolescent growing up. Something that I feel is very critical in our development, is to have a stable home with that duality, of those examples of a mother and a father, and how a young one grows and sees the interactions of a family, the things that dad does, the things that mom does, the interactions between mom and dad, and how that really encompasses and really puts our youth on a trajectory. And I say that because me not having what I needed, in a sense, really taught me what I needed to do when I became a parent. And I'm still learning every day as the process goes on. I feel like being a parent is a never ending process. There's things that I have those aha moments. It's like, oh man, okay, that's what I could have done better, rather than sitting there and fighting with myself, because I do understand that by me not having those role models of a father in my life, I understand that I don't have all the answers, as the brother Juan had mentioned too, about having a grandpa in the picture and having something to really draw back on, and also to help uplift and help build. And part of having a community is also being able to go back and kind of give everything that I didn't have. And when I say that, it's the little things, the hugs, the I love yous, the how was your day today? You look very frustrated, and being able to be that outlet, right? To be that source of comfort. It's very important. So for me, that's one thing that I've really been able to recognize and incorporate here in my familial setting, is to be able to provide that sense of stability, something that I didn't have. And as I had mentioned, being a father, it's a never ending process. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a guru. I am not the perfect father. I am not that model father, but I am that father who wants to learn, wants to grow, and wants to love, and wants to be that father figure that I didn't have growing up. So for me, that's one thing that really motivates me every day, is to be a reflection of the father that I wanted as a youth. So holding that to heart as I go out into the world and trying to be the best human being that I can be, but not only a best human being, but a best father, the best brother, the best uncle, the best that I can be as me. So that's one thing that has really helped me. And I do look for, advice, and I do have many role models that also help chisel me. And the list goes on. So I don't want to leave anyone out. So I don't want to start going down the list, but I do have those role models that have really helped me in my development of fatherhood. And I say it's a constant cycle of development. So for me, I'm very honored to have the role models that I've had to emulate those father valores that I didn't have. So I really look to them to be able to install some of those values in my fatherhood. So
Yeah, really, really good question, man. I remember when my son was little, taking him to the store and buying him toys that I never had. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, look at these G.I. Joes, bro. I never had this one. Let me get you the Snake Eyes. You know what I mean? Let me get you the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. I never could find them, but now, let me get them for you. And so, yeah, I think, some of that always plays into being a father, right? Like, what we didn't have, what we couldn't get, where we wanted to go, right? I remember the first time I took my son to Disneyland. I never had been to Disneyland, and so those kinds of things, they make you happy. And let me fix this light. Yeah, they make you happy, to be able to do those things. But I think the one characteristic is to love yourself. to appreciate yourself, to love yourself, to have that respect for yourself, because then you're not out, you're not looking for it in other places, in other areas. And so like for my son, I've always tried to like pass on that characteristic of really valuing yourself, really, holding yourself in that regard for everything that you are, what you bring, not trying to be a follower, not trying to impress other folks, just being really complacent with, the tools and abilities that you have, and so a lot of that has been taught through sports, on the playing field. I grew up playing sports, and I valued the experience of losing in a safe way, and so I've always told my son, this is the safest place to lose. You learn so much from losing a ball game, how to get back up, this, and not losing the fight in yourself, believing in yourself. And so, for me, sports is like the safest way to teach young people. And so I brought up my kid, playing sports. And I think as we opened up, or as I opened up, talking about not trying to get what you wanted to do, the one difference that I did was just giving them the opportunity to play multiple sports and not really dictating which one, he chose. And so for me, fortunately, he chose the one that I love, so it worked out. You know what I mean? But I didn't force it on him; it was his choice. And I just think that I'll just say that much. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And part of it is, growing up, my dad was not perfect, and I catch myself having his voice, and sometimes when I get mad at something and I'm like, yell at the kids, I hear my dad in the voice, and it calms me down to say, I don't want to continue the cycle that I said that frustrated me growing up. And so, it's being the best father that I could be, and understanding that there's no perfection, and that the work that we do, is special for our community, for ourselves. It feeds our soul, but it's about how do we carry ourselves to be the best example that we could be, and some of those examples are to see our faults. To see that, as long as you love your kids and you try your best, that's important, and that's the value that I want my sons and my daughter to kind of see. And so when they have kids, that they carry themselves with palabra, with hard work, and with a fire to really, work for the community. And the times when I kind of catch myself having my dad's voice, I catch myself and I kind of I think I understand my father more. It's one of those things where as a 12, 13, 14, 15, or even 18 or 20 something year old, you don't really understand your father until you have kids and you are a father. And so, making sure that, that I catch myself at those points when it's not the healthiest behavior, but also catch the points when it's good behavior, and making sure that what I bring to my kids, really sets them up for success in their life, because at the end, that's the greatest example of you is your children. Palabra.
Palabra. And I'm over here laughing and like smiling because I could totally relate to the dad voice, right? I think about the Kevin Hart comedy where he's like, man, the dad to watch the kids and be like, hey, hey. And I got it too, man. Like there's like my wife will tell me, hey, they're over there, they won't listen to me. Hey, listen to your mom. Listen. And they listen, right? There's there's still that little bit of fear of dad, right? That, yeah, like, hey, you better listen to your mom, and they get that little fear, right? But it's not like that blood curdly, like, oh, I'm gonna get my ass beat type of fear, right? They just get a little bit of act right real quick, and it's always like my wife, I'm gonna tell your dad. I'm gonna tell your dad. And nobody wants dad to freaking know. Nobody wants dad to be upset with them or whatever it may be, right? Dad ain't gonna do nothing to him, right? But you are gonna get the spoke to, and sometimes like that sitting down and that plática, I think that might have been harder for me growing up. They get in that chancla, you know what I'm saying? Like, because you have to sit there and make eye contact, and that's something that I think I really got from my mom as well too. Is like, when you have a problem, you have something going on, you address somebody face to face, and you look them in the eye, you talk to them, and you figure out what has to happen next, right? Mom was a little bit crazy, right? Shit, because she might want to throw hands. But in this case, it's figuring out what's best for the household, right? And I want to say as well too, like, what other things do I mimic? Working hard. Shit, we wake up early. We're doing our phone calls, we're doing our whatever it may be, right? And we're still working till late at night. Like we'll be on documents or freaking whatever it may be at 1:00 in the morning. Because that's your responsibility, and like the job is like your life, right? And that's how you're gonna sustain the family. But with us, it's a little bit beyond the job, right? It's a life. People's lives are on the line with all this stuff. And I remember that from my grandparents too, of telling me, like, because they grew up in the, when everything was going all bad with the farm workers, right? I grew up watching the Greats of Wrath, not the John Steinbeck one, the other crazy stuff, right? So anyways, always thinking about like the people as well too, and establishing that thought process inside of your children of thinking about like, hey, do for yourself, but also do for others. If you're okay, figure out how you can share, right? My kids trip out because there'll be times where there's like one last whatever it may be, and I'll walk around the house like, hey, does anybody want a piece of this? Anybody, like, even if we're gonna take a little bite, right? And just get the flavor of it. They understand sharing, they understand cooperation, but they also understand the need to protect themselves and to protect their brothers, sisters, mom, and all of that stuff. Those are things that I got from my family. Grandpa didn't play around, neither did dad. Like, wasn't nobody gonna come into this house and try to hurt nobody in here, and if somebody was messing with one of us, what's up? Like, let's go have the conversation and see what has to happen, because these children deserve to live freely, to live safely. And you know what, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna show them how much I love my wife. I'm gonna show them what positive interactions like that are. So that, and my kids laugh, and like my daughters will be like looking at us and like, ooh, mommy loves daddy, or daddy loves mommy. And it's cool, man. I really love that, because when you radiate that love, they talk about the ripple effects, right? Throw a rock in the pond, there's some ripple effects. Throw your heart in the household, there's ripple effects of love. So with that, palabra.
And it is it's a good question, and thank everybody for sharing. But as I think about my father's example, I think definitely, he left at a young age. He left when I was about 8 years old. I was the youngest. I am his baby till the day, I guess. But I think he left, and I think as I got older, I kind of started understanding why he left, right? Understanding mom remarried. So I think that for the broken heart, right? And that's the reality, that sometimes in life, for whatever reason, our hearts will be broken that way. So I think I realized, navigating my own life, going through my own heartbreaks in life, I learned from my dad's example that I wanted to do what he did, because when his heart was broken, he chose to leave, right? And when my heart was broken, not to sit there and say it was all, I'm holding myself accountable for all my part in there, right? Because definitely a lot of it is my fault, right? But at the end of the day, when that happened, I realized I had 2 children, and the commitment was to my children. So I had to navigate that heartbreak. I had to figure it out. I had to figure out healthy coping mechanisms. I had to break that cycle. right? I had to step away from alcohol. I had to step away from drugs. I had to step away from violence. And I literally had to heal myself. And I think, just being able to do that, of course, I think that goes back to moms. That's the role model, right? Moms has healed through it all. And I think someone said it, man, my mom had 3 kids by the age of 18. I was stressing with 2 of them. And for mom to handle 3 at the age of 18, I'm like, wow. And like I said, maybe she did complain, maybe she didn't. I don't know, right? I was a kid, but I didn't feel it. I felt nothing but love from mom. So I think at the end of the day, there's this quote, I think, that says, I am a reflection on my ancestors and my children are a reflection on me. There's a lot of folks and a lot of characteristics that I learned along the way, right? But I think I try to picking up all those healthy ones to to break that cycle and start a circle with my children, right? To create that relationship with them. So yeah, I think, there's a lot, right? I think, but by the most part, I think when I think about a role model, I mean, like mama did it all. At the end of the day, even till this day, when something comes up, go back to home base and mom takes care of it, right? But with that said, I'll leave it at that and I'll pass it back to Juan, I think.
Yeah, I will say, I remember one of the key activities at the house, right, was, they take me to go regar la milpa, right? And that was the thing. And then I can run around the cornfield and stuff, right? And sometimes when we're messing around, grandpa would freaking water the hose on us and stuff, regando, right? Anyhow, but I learned, I was raised with my grandparents right there. And so literally, I almost think like growing up in that milpa is almost identical to freaking like the way even our organization runs, right? Like, there's some folks that are like, they're going to hold it down. There's the workers, you may never see them because they're not getting in no trouble. And there's some no agarran la pinche onda, right? And you're like, what the heck, right? You know what I mean? And then in time, sometimes, some get away out there. Some of my folks struggle with drugs and alcohol, schizophrenia type of stuff. You know what I mean? And then also like a key characteristics like, hey, la vida va a estar duro. Sometimes we try to protect our young people way too much. We try to overly sterilize them, sanitize them, and we're setting them up for failure. Later on, right now they're cool, but later on, I'm gonna tell you, I don't want, so we need to give them a little bit of veneno, you know what I'm saying? Me like, no, no te va a matar, right? Like all that crazy stuff, like, eat the shit, right? You know what I mean? And so like, also like not being perfect, and this is what we are. And even little things like, the whole thing of like, we don't have no money, we're poor, but we got food, right? So there was always food, right? And it wasn't because like whether we had money or not, but it was because there's always going to be attention and a place for you here at the table. As long as there's, that's what we have here. We have familia, and so, like, to me, that was, yeah, and then also like all the guys right there, they would all play like marbles, you know what I mean? And so like, those are the characteristics I think about, like what it is to be a father. It was like, it's intergenerational, it's playful also. It's not just all straight, kind of teaching. Sometimes it's just like freaking chilling, you know what I mean? And so like, that's one thing I am like learning to be adventurous, right? Like my little young one, he's like a little mountain goat. That kid runs everywhere. And I'm like, but I have been learning like, wow, in the inner city and some of these are apartments, we got to tell our young people, no, a lot, because it's actually dangerous, not safe. They can get freaking the car traffic, right? And so like knowing that like just a spatial ability to move around freely, that means a lot, so yeah, I think those are some of the characteristics, like I grew up and like, yeah, like freaking, I didn't have a backyard. We shared a big old lot in the backyard, right? We had alleys, we had everything. So like, and it was cool. Ain't no one gonna mess with us because it was just like, it was safe. You know what I mean? Like if you ask the police something, I'm not sure what they would think, but it was safe. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no one gonna mess with us and stuff. I mean, like I said, so I'll say that much. It's just a feeling of safety. You know what I mean? That regardless, por las buenas y por las malas, my family's got me. That's what I try to bring home.
Yeah. You know, I think my trying to mimic the hard work for me, right? And the truth is, like, man, I'm trying to figure it out right now, right? I think it's like, hey, it's a long story. You know, it's a long story. But the one thing that I've seen, even to this day, right, is that el trabajo. Tienes que trabajar, because if we don't work, you know, you ain't gonna pay bills, you ain't gonna have food, you know, and that's just the way of life. Eh? And then seeing that, you know, trying to navigate life right now, you know, it's like I look at my pops too, you know, and just trip out on them, because it's like, man, you can just, I've never seen him do anything else, right? Then bust his ass. It's just like, he's just working. Hasta ahorita, you know, have conversations, you know, I seen him kind of relax también, but, you know, but what I right now is like what I really look towards like this circle right here, right, of men, of fathers. That's I really like take advice or listen to what, or just why, you know, watch what y'all do también with your kids, you know, because um you know, my pops, you know, the parents are there, they're trying to navigate their life, you know, they're struggling, you know, just like a lot of our families are struggling, you know, especially nowadays with all this stuff that's going around, right? Lack of opportunities, you know, of resources, you know, the redlining to be able to buy a home, you know, the all those things, you know. But aquí right here at Milpa, you know, it's like I'm able to like really see the healthiness. You see the like the okay, you know, that's how I'm supposed to like, you know, treat, you know, or explain something or speak to or just engage with my daughters. But you know, eso sí, el trabajo, you know, that's one of a lot of the one of the big characteristics that I seen growing up. And at one point, you know, I lived across my tia, you know, my tia Melia, you know, it's like, and mi tío Waldo, right? Field workers también, you know, tia Melia, like a lot of, you know, I trip out because it's like, you know, for you see the canerias, right? Well, my mom and my tia worked in the canerias, you know, once it closed down, was, you know, they couldn't. But after that, my tia went to, you know, she went to a tienda, went to the Fox Shocks, right? Went to like all these other places, you know, just hustling también, you know, and la jefa también. So um, I seen that, but you know, I really take that compassionate component from my mom. You know, just be having compassion. You know, va a estar bien. You know, I might get mad a little bit or lo que sea, you know, and it's like having that love, you know. I really, yeah, I really just appreciate everything that I'm experiencing right now at Milpa with y'all. You know, even this conversation, you know, I'm gonna have this one like on just on repeat. You know, it's like, 'cause it's like a lot of rich, you know, things here, you know, and you know, and it's cool to like, you know, sometimes I do go to the jefe, you know, and be like, hey, well, what do you think about this, or what do you think about that, you know, and then but that's, you know, that's one of those things where that intergenerational like wisdom comes into play también, you know. It's like even um yeah, so man, this is I'm like in my feelings and all that stuff right now, you know. It's cool. So you know, gentlemen, we're coming to a close, to an end of this conversation. You know, this conversation, I think, man, we could just sit here and riff, you know, right, and like just go down memory lane and stuff, eh? But um, you know, one message, you know, or a message that y'all want to tell the fathers out there, you know, especially now that, you know, Father's Day is coming, but not just because it's Father's Day, right? It's just because of, you know, through our experiences or just a message in general, you know what I'm saying? So I'll open it up, you know.
Muchísimas gracias, Bernie, for facilitating this conversation. It's been a meaningful conversation, which we've been able to really unpack some of those sentiments and some of those inner thoughts and inner reflections that, for me personally, I really don't have the space and the opportunity to open up. And as we were going through the plática, you know, I felt some of my emotions, you know, being stimulated in many different instances because in a sense, I was reflecting back on some of those experiences of my adolescence that weren't the most healthiest. But what came to my mind is, rather than focus on that, is how can I change those, unfortunate experiences, and really use them to really cultivate those meaningful experiences for my offspring in the future, and to be able to give them the things that were never given to me. But if there was one thing I would like to share with everyone and each and every one of you, it's that I appreciate each and every one of you as men, as father, as brothers, as uncles, as relatives, and how much I've been able to learn in my process of becoming a father, in that continuous cycle, and finding those gems in each and every one of you and incorporating them into my fatherhood and striving to become a better man. So I would encourage you all to be gentle, to be compassionate on yourself, and understand, at least for me, that didn't have a father figure growing up and had to incorporate other, father figures into those crevices that were empty, and I needed to fill the voids, right? So I would say the voids that we needed to fill are within us, gentlemen. Look within yourself. So many times we often look in other places, and everything we ever need is here within us. So I would encourage you to look inward and really be that example for our offspring. Tamo.
For me, as far as messages, man, I think my message is just to, the audience and all the folks here, just to look in the mirror, continue looking in the mirror, continue asking yourself, what could you do better? You know what I'm saying? Or, just accepting, some of our journey, you know what I'm saying? Being okay with that, if you are carrying cargas, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff that you hold from before, drop that shit, leave it right there, make yourself lighter, because you're going to need it on the journey of fatherhood, you got to be light. But I will say in closing, just, how beautiful it's been, the experience with Milpa, to come to an office space, a workspace where there's children, where there's tias, where there's abuelitas, where there's, dads, brothers, uncles, everybody playing a role, nephews, how beautiful it's been to see fathers come with their son into ceremony, into lugares to drop cargas inside the fire, and then how beautiful it's been also for like just some of our mentors, some of those folks in our Calpuli that have brought other young people, and continue to pass on this medicina to the next 7 generations. Yeah, I mean the only message that I have is keep fighting, keep pushing. It's an ongoing journey, it's not overnight, it's not, an easy fix. You got to keep trying, and, hasta la victoria, as they say. That's about it. A whole palabra.
Yeah, thank you. And, kind of reflecting on the conversation we just had right now, it's rare that we have an opportunity as men to talk about being fathers, and the work that we do. And I think part of it is a generational thing where the generation before this is, as a father, you don't complain, you just do. And, it's really isolating work to be a father, and it's even harder nowadays, with the challenges that we're facing as, as a society. Systematic racism exists, and and the work that we do every day at Milpa is about the 7 generations, and so part of it is we always say it's before you could heal others, you got to heal yourself. But as a father, you sometimes don't have the time to do that, and and so often we're all wounded walking around, and I kind of think of the fathers that don't have the privilege of having the conversations that we're having today, the ones that are in jail, crying for their kids, the ones that are, in the streets, trying to make a living. At least, my parents, if you busted your ass, you can make a living. Barely, but you can make a living. My parents didn't have a degree, and they made it. And and the society that we're living in today, it's not just about busting your ass. It's about changing the system to give us an opportunity. The cost of housing is ridiculous in our neighborhood right now. Somebody earning minimum wage, working full time, still lives below the poverty level today, and that's not right. And so the thing that we do about healing ourselves, and part of healing ourselves is healing others. And so as I kind of see my kids, every morning when I'm, interacting with them, that my dad did not have the opportunity to do because he was already working. And by the time I got up to school, he already had 2 or 3 hours down, working in Los Feliz, using his body as a tool. And, and having the opportunity to hear, to speak father to father about the challenges that we're facing, it's healing. And we rarely have the opportunity to do that, but it also shows that we have a lot of work to do. If we're going to have our children have an opportunity and a fighting chance to make it, we got to fix the problems of the past. And that's what drives me every day. I'll be the first to say I'm not a perfect father, but I'm doing the best that I can. And for so many of us, they're doing the best that they can with even more challenges. And so, we gotta, think of our community as a whole, and a la lucha. That's, my dad said, palabra y trabajo. And guess what? We have a lot of, trabajo ahead of us. Palabra.
Yeah, I like to riff, like our young people are, our children in particular coming from the neighborhood, migrant folk, native folk, formerly incarcerated folk, coming off the res folk, like our culture's already under attack. They're trying to strip it, right? Everything. They're trying to erase it. And there's a lot of stuff on TV, on social media that continues to also create confusion for what it means to like raise up and be a strong, healthy young man. That means something. And so making no mistake about it, the conversation is different when you sit with the warriors, with justice and peace warriors, right? And so I say that because I'm a freedom defender. I love it. And I do think about these brothers behind the walls, these sisters behind the walls, and sometimes we have to make a choice. But we got to protect this freedom because those young people are counting on us. And I'm going to tell you, it's really easy to want to throw folks away, man. But like I said, don't let your own rage get in the way about that. Because what if your young person comes to that situation? How would you want them to be treated? So I think about that a lot, like having to push myself, like, man, And so I just think about like the message, like we do need each other, and we need our sisters to also back us up. You know what I mean? And stand up for their sons, and their daughters too. You know what I'm saying? And so like I can just really appreciate being in this conversation, right? Because I look at each and every, you have all different little styles, little dad styles and stuff, And but I will give a shout out to Chris, right? Because I'm like, yeah, I want to be a dad like Chris. Like I really like Chris's style, you know what I mean? Because I see how the relationship is with the boy. You know what I'm saying? And the boy, man, solid with pride, respectful, buen trabajador, and he's a young man. And so I'm like, wow. So also, you don't have to beat yourself down. You're still a man. You have strengths, weaknesses, intimacy, all that. That's all you need, all that still. Just like women do and moms do. You know what I mean? You're not like a zombie over here. You know what I'm saying? You're living and breathing, feeling. So I'll say that much, yeah, and so I appreciate being in the space and in the circle, because if the one thing that we've done at Milpa is we created better parents. I've seen that, and I've seen the parents being willing to help themselves. That's the biggest gift that we can do, because those young people are children. One day we're going to be in a tough spot. Oh, dad did it. Yeah, he did it. So that little strength right there, a ray of hope. And we're coming into the solstice. It just stretches you. People are tired. I'm tired, wounded right now. But that's not, like I said, but that's the sun time. And that's why, like, after that, you got to enjoy and play, travel, live a little, travel a little. Si se vale. You can't always be all stingy. Like, you can do it. You know what I mean? And you know how it is. Some of our fathers coming from our backgrounds smoke way too much weed. It's like, well, if you didn't smoke that much weed, you may be able to come over here and maybe be a little more clear. You know what I'm saying? So you have to make choices too. You know what I'm saying? Palabra.
Oh, palabra. I'll do my best to make it quick. So, message to the fathers, call to action, just listen to the kids, man. Protect them, allow them to be kids. Don't burden them with the things that we were burdened with. Be a man. You got to be a man. You got to this, or act like a grown up, or, you don't act like that. Let them figure it out slowly but surely. Also, don't let them hurt themselves or others too, right? But listen to them, whether or not that child's yours or not too. Protect them, whether or not that child's yours or not. Because you see people in the neighborhood, you see little kids in the neighborhood. You might go to a party and you might be the only one right there that little kid turns to and is like, hi, what are you doing? Don't just turn to the side. Acknowledge the young person, engage with them. I don't know why, but I'm usually that one that the little kid comes up to and I'm talking to, right? And I just want to share a quote. It's from Blackout real quick. It says, grown men can learn from very little children, for the hearts of the little children are pure. Therefore, great spirit may show to them many things which older people miss. So you can learn things from those little ones, from their little hearts, but also listen to your little heart too, that you weren't able to express when you were younger. That little one's going to tell you what it needs inside of you. And that's going to remind you what you need to do in the world, in the community, in your home. Palabra.
Yeah, no, definitely want to appreciate the conversation. I think this is something I think we've shared before. To have this kind of space, to be able to conversate as a man with other men. We don't have this in other places. So I think I do recall Juan and I having a conversation one time around it. The one thing we're doing at Milpa is helping folks become better fathers. And that's talking about the folks that are here and folks that have left in the past, right? Becoming better fathers, we're doing something. And that's success alone right there. That alone is success. So I think for me, I'm very grateful. Any type of message, I would just tell folks, any father out there, or father figure, appreciate those little ones. Appreciate every moment, because I guarantee you it's going to go by in a snap of fingers. So when you have a chance to play with them, play with them. When you have a chance to run with them, run with them. If you have to get on the ground and get dirty with them, do that too. It's cool. It's fun, But have fun. Go back to that childhood. Have fun and enjoy it. And I think at the end of the day, like I said, it's gonna go by quick. Sometimes I wish my little ones were, well, they're not little no more, 16 and 18. Sometimes I wish they were little ones, right? But hey, it's cool now. We'll play different games now. But with that said, enjoy it, appreciate it. And again, appreciate you all for holding the space. Gracias, Bernie. Pass it back to you.
Yeah, gracias, y'all. Just a quick message to you fathers out there that were like me or are like me, right? Saben que, choices were made, right? We have our experiences, but right now is the time, to do something about it. Continue to do something about it, to continue to, to fight and strive, right, for the, for that betterment, that better quality of life for your children. If you have estranged kids, if you're not in the life to, off and on, but there's been, it's like the best thing you can do is, hey, work on yourself, be, create a better version of yourself. And I take this as, I say that because that was me. I'm formerly incarcerated, been in the calles, all that stuff. And for the longest years, I couldn't get out of that cycle. But now I'm around, good, strong men and women, right? That have actually helped me, really see what that understand that my experiences are not going to define who I am or my future. So I just ask that, that reach out, stay in contact with your kids, love your kids, love yourself, the mom, just love, compassion, right? Love, charity, hope, all those things. It's good. Don't let the system gaslight you, don't let the system, continue to do what it does, divide and conquer, disrupt the family structure. Go back into the cultura, listen to the grandmas and grandpas, pay attention to the to our to that nature, to those four elements, to all those things, all those good things. It's, hey, it's worked. It worked for me. I'm gonna tell you, I'm a better person because of it. But con esto, there you have it, gente. Father's Day episode here with some strong men, some strong fathers. Stay tuned for next episode. Subscribe, like, check you out. Gracias.